Welcome to this special edition of Studio 5. As always, we are counting down this week's leading headlines in the world of uplifting entertainment. But as we're doing that, we're also taking you to Charleston, South Carolina for an extensive look back at the deadly church shooting and the unforgettable acts of forgiveness that followed. We want to begin, though, with the countdown. Here's number 5. At number 5. Two hometown headlines for music man Pharrell Williams.
We are Virginia.
Following the mega success of his Something in the Water festival, the 12-time Grammy Award winner is looking to cast singers from his hometown in a gospel music project.
Artists, architects, athletes, academics, when they read about all of those interesting, really talented people who come from here, they always say, man, there must be something in the water.
We also witnessed Pharrell's heart for his hometown here, returning to Virginia Beach and taking time to visit the families of those killed in the shooting inside the city's municipal building.
I pinch myself all the time. I never forget where I come from, and that's part of the reason why we're here.
We are Virginia.
At number 4.
Faith is running low.
We heard This Is Us star Chrissy Metz sing this song for her film Breakthrough. And in this People magazine exclusive, Metz shares she's working on music with a message and purpose, saying it's always something she's wanted to do. While we await the new music, Chrissy Metz can still be seen every week in her hit NBC series.
Lying in my bed, I hear the clock ticking, think of you.
And so that begins this week's countdown. The headlines read, churchgoers gunned down during prayer service in Charleston, South Carolina. It now marks the 4th anniversary of the event. And Steph Curry and Viola are partnering with Mariska Hargitay and director Brian Ivey to bring us a powerful documentary. It's called Emanuel. Here's your Studio 5 first look.
Didn't think much about it for a minute. And then I said, let me call Cynthia. And I called her cell phone and there was no answer.
These are the voices.
Someone told me, hey, Chris, your mom got shot.
The families.
And she said, who is you? I said, I'm the daughter. She said, I'm sorry, baby, your mama's gone.
Of those known to many as the Charleston 9, all gunned down at a Bible study in the basement of Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, June 17th, 2015. Their lives in that day now being remembered on the big screen in the film Emanuel.
It sounded like a transformer blew. And then when we all opened our eyes, I was the first one. I said, oh my God, he have a gun. I said, he's shooting the place. And I said, get on the floor. And Reverend Pinckney was the first one, got shot. And then the shots came so regular.
Reverend Daniel Simmons Sr. was the second to be shot. Rose Simmons is his daughter. What's this film mean to you?
Wow, you know, it is a film that needs to be told. It really chronicles the lives of the family members and survivors, and it shows the impact of that night.
A white man who wanted to start a race war came to a very historic African-American church to kill black people, and that is what happened in our city.
The impact of that night and what followed is why Hollywood stars Mariska Hargitay, Viola Davis, and NBA star Steph Curry all signed on as the film's producers.
It's confusing at times in terms of why, some people might question, why would God let something like this happen? When I go through those type of seasons in my life, it's finding, that reassurance that He will never forsake me in terms of, anything that I go through. It's just preparing me for something to come.
This one was really seared through me, and I'll tell you why. As a Christian woman, as a lover of God and Christ, and as a woman of color and a South Carolina native, I was floored by how this man, Dylan Roof, walked into the church during Bible study and how they welcomed him in. It's those kind of details. But as much as I know about history, and as much as I'm not surprised by acts of hatred and racism and violence, that one still shocked me.
What also shocked many? The families of the fallen publicly forgave the shooter.
I would never talk to her ever again. I would never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you.
It came barely 48 hours after the murders.
I remember when I got the call, my mind completely skyrocketed, I would say. That's how fast I moved to thinking about my father. My thoughts were more about how he's entering heaven. I thought less about how he left this world and more about his triumphant entry into glory. And that was only through the power of the Holy Spirit. It wasn't something that I intended to do. It came upon me. And I believe that that's where my peace was established throughout the whole incident.
What do you want us to know about your dad?
Wow. I love that question. I love it when people ask me that. I think he had to become his own hero. And I believe that's how he lived his life. He nicknamed himself Super Simmons. And I think in order to do that, you have to have this presence about who you are. And I believe he always knew who he was and what he wanted to do and achieve. And everything that he set out to do, he did it.
An act that he imagined would incite fear and recrimination, violence and suspicion. An act that he presumed would deepen divisions that trace back to our nation's original sin. Oh, but God works in mysterious ways.
Emanuel is in American theaters for 2 showings. The first is June 17th, and the second showing is June 19th.
Still to come.
My grandfather was a very strong individual. He was very strong-willed, and it was hard to convince him of anything that he didn't already know.
Meet the granddaughter of Super Simmons and see what she's doing to keep his memory alive.
Roman soldiers destroy the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Centuries of eyewitnesses say the temple treasures survived. But where are they?
They went from Jerusalem to Rome, Rome to Carthage, Carthage to Byzantium.
Historians are silent about what happened to it next.
This is a bad omen.
Hosted and narrated by Gordon Robertson.
So does it still exist today?
CBN Documentaries presents a story of mystery.
Where is it?
Calamity. Most of the victims were butchered. And destiny.
The possibility to dig is impossible.
Take a journey to find Treasures of the Second Temple, a CBN Documentaries presentation, coming July 8th.
Welcome back to this special edition of Studio 5. We're going to travel back to Charleston, South Carolina to continue our look at the bravery and resilience at Mother Emanuel in just a moment. Right now, let's fire up the countdown of uplifting entertainment. We're picking back up at number 3.
At number 3.
For me, it's inspirational to see a guy with a huge beard and a cowboy hat finally make it in country music.
Marvel movies and Jurassic World superstar Chris Pratt is a married man, sharing this photo on Instagram. Pratt married Katherine Schwarzenegger Saturday. Pratt and the daughter of Arnold Schwarzenegger shared, "It was the best day of our lives. We became husband and wife in front of God, our families, and those we love. It was intimate, moving, and emotional."
Now I've had the time of my life.
At number 2. 16 years, 1,141 shows, and an emotional tribute to her late husband.
Celine Dion wrapped her long-running Las Vegas residency Saturday night before a sold-out crowd.
Dion will now embark upon a new tour, and she has new music to share.
I'm flying on my own, on the wings of your love.
And that leaves us with only one more headline in this week's countdown. We'll get to it in just a moment. A 21-year-old white supremacist opens fire in a church. 9 African Americans are killed. Their families are left to pick up the pieces after a senseless act of terror. Within 48 hours, those families face the killer in court and offer words of forgiveness. I was in Charleston as this unforgettable story unfolded. Let's take a look back.
This is Charleston, South Carolina, where remnants of the past linger on every corner. It's home to more than 400 churches. They're symbols of faith etched into the horizon.
Charleston is referred to as the Holy City simply because of its number of churches. During the days of the American Revolution and such, it was considered a place of relative religious freedom for groups such as the French Huguenots, the Catholics, and even the Jews.
And tucked away near the Charleston harbor stands Mother Emanuel, an African Methodist Episcopal church whose history stretches back to the days of slavery. The congregation settled here in 1891 and became a beacon of hope during the 1960s, with advocating civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr.
I don't see the answer to our problem in riots. So my slogan is not burn, baby, burn. My slogan is build, baby, build. Organize, baby, organize.
He told the audience, I believe consistently in nonviolence. From a moral point of view, this isn't the way. From a practical point of view, this isn't the way.
Mother Emanuel listened, and through the years they lived and preached in love, acting as agents of peace in times of disunity. Then, hate challenged their resolve.
All units responding, 110 Townsend State.
Give me at least 4 medic units.
June 17, 2015, members of Mother Emanuel welcomed a stranger into their Wednesday night Bible study. And hours later, the stranger opens fire.
Respond to incident 10, incident 10.
I copy several victims, advising of an active shooter, multiple people down.
One of the men in the Bible study was Reverend Daniel Simmons Sr., a church staff member and beloved grandfather of 4.
My dad called me and told me, hey, I might be going to Charleston. There was a shooting at your grandfather's church. Whether he was there or not, I'm on my way. I got home, I turned on CNN, and it was like breaking news. I was watching and praying all night. We really didn't want that to be him.
Daniel Simmons was a Vietnam War vet and 4th-generation preacher. He answered to the name Dan, but those at Mother Emanuel knew him as Super Simmons.
My grandfather was a very strong individual. He was very strong-willed, and it was hard to convince him of anything that he didn't already know. In the same respect, I would say that he was very strong in his faith. In his home, we saw like a stack of sermons that he just written out. He had a sermon for almost anything that you can think of. He loved the AME church. I don't think that he would have preferred to be any other place, knowing how much he loved to study the Bible.
At 9:05 this evening, we received a call of a shooting that had occurred at the church here on Calhoun Street. There were 8 deceased individuals inside of the church.
But the 9th victim, Alana's grandfather, was still breathing. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds and was rushed to the hospital. As Alana waited to hear if he made it through surgery, the reality of what happened began to sink in.
Police are still looking for the shooter. He's described as a clean-shaven white male in his early 20s.
The only reason someone could walk into church and shoot people praying is out of hate.
The Department of Justice has opened a hate crime investigation into this shooting incident.
How did this happen? Why did this happen? I can't believe this happened. They're God's people. I wanted him to be able to survive this situation. I wanted to be able to just talk to him one more time.
Hours later, Ilana got another call. Her grandfather didn't make it, and 8 victims became 9.
I was devastated to lose someone to a race crime like that, especially in the middle of prayer. It makes you angry to think that we're still in that same place of hatred that we were years and years ago.
The suspected gunman has been identified as 21-year-old Dylan Roof. He was captured just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, 12 hours after opening fire on an historic black church.
The only thing that I could pray for was peace for my family and for the city. Racial tensions rise and the community is divided. That's what I expected.
And I will tell you, there's a lot of prayer in this state. And so you are going to see all of us try and lift these 9 families up in prayer because they need us.
The blood of the mother Emanuel 9 requires us to work.
The world cannot understand why we're not crying at this moment, why we're not bitter.
We will continue our look back in just a moment. As we go to break, it is time to Say It in Pictures as a special edition of this week's Studio 5 Snapshot.
We've lived in the community. We have contacts in the community.
That's Charleston's The Post and Courier reporter Jennifer Berry Hawes, who's written a new book, Grace Will Lead Us Home, The Charleston Massacre and the Hard, Inspiring Journey to Forgiveness. The book and Charleston are this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. And still ahead,
I forgive you and my family forgive you.
Forgiveness in a South Carolina courtroom becomes a national movement.
To show you that I can love you and you can love me and we can work together.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Come home to the Southern Gospel Station from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites. CBN Southern Gospel. Available now at cbnradio.com.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of uplifting entertainment. At number 1.
We at a party we don't want to be at.
Justin Bieber scores 2 headlines this week. The first,
was Justin Bieber bored or who knows, but for some reason he's challenging Tom Cruise to a fight. The superstar singer tweeted out that he wants to fight Cruise in the octagon, meaning UFC style, saying if Cruise didn't take the fight, he's scared and will never live it down. So far, no response from Cruise, who's 56 and 5'7", by the way. Bieber is 25 and 5'9".
The other headline,
Don't think we fit in at this party.
This People magazine exclusive. Justin and his model wife, Haley Baldwin, are planning a second and larger wedding around the anniversary of the courthouse ceremony. That will be sometime in September.
Anything you want to say about your son-in-law?
Yeah, please, for my family across the board, please pray. As you can imagine, my family, particularly Haley and Justin, choose to publicly profess Christ. So that means there's a whole lot of forces that will be against them.
So if we have a hope for them to be a blessing to the kingdom, well, then we gotta pray.
That wraps this week's countdown and brings us back to Charleston, South Carolina, and Mother Emanuel Church.
2 days after the shooting, a bunch of us marched to Mother Emanuel. We were clapping and singing spirituals like, "Victory is mine, victory is mine, victory today is mine." As we were getting up to the church and singing these songs, we heard this foreign sound coming from the middle of the street. And we turned around. The Jewish community of Charleston made a circle in the middle of the street and did the Kaddish, which is their Hebrew prayer of the dead, as a gesture of solidarity with us in that tragedy.
The following day, the surviving families came together for Ruth's bond hearing. With emotions running high, a few of the family members approached the front of the courtroom to confront the man who murdered their loved ones.
You took something very precious away from me. I would never talk to her ever again. I would never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you.
I forgive you and my family forgive you. But we would like you to take this opportunity to repent. Give your life to the one who matters the most, Christ.
Every fiber in my body hurts, and I'll never be the same. But may God have mercy on you.
I'm certain that at the time that my grandfather served in the Army, and at the time that he even grew up, that he was mistreated simply because of the way that he looked. He never in his life would have been the kind to harbor negative feelings. He had to forgive them so that he could go on and live in love.
And she knew there was only one way that she could truly honor his memory, by forgiving his killer.
Although my grandfather and the other victims died at the hands of hate, this is proof. Everyone's plea for your soul is proof that they lived in love and their legacies will live in love. So hate won't win.
What started as a show of forgiveness in a courtroom has now become a movement that Alana calls Hate Won't Win. It's inspiring communities all over the country, and it's all in honor of her grandfather.
To show you that I can love you and you can love me, and we can work together to better our community. That's what Hate Won't Win movement is all about. I know that he's looking down on how we've chosen to carry on his legacy, that he would be very, very proud of what we're doing.
While the tragedy within these walls will never be forgotten, the 9 lives taken out of hate live on in the hearts of those who have chosen to love.
One thing that we can say for now is that there was this city called Charleston who refused to listen to the voices of madness and chose wise counsel and handled the situation with grace and dignity.
Knowing my grandfather, he wouldn't have had it any other way. Yes, I lost my grandfather. Yes, other people lost their lives. Yes, hate brought us here, but look where love is going to take us.
And a quick reminder, Emanuel, the documentary, is in American theaters for 2 showings, the first on the 17th of June and the second, June 19th.
Coming up next.
How has losing your father the way you did changed the trajectory of your life?
Get the answer in a final word from Rose Simmons.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're gonna bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back to Studio 5. The soundtrack for this special edition of Studio 5 has been the Queen of Gospel who paid tribute to Emanuel Church with a song. Pastor Shirley Caesar's Emanuel is what's playing in my ear.
To love instead of hate, they did not discriminate. Standing strong against the gates of hell. Oh, Mama, Mother Emanuel.
With that, we are almost out of time for this episode, so it's time now to take a look ahead and see what's coming up next week.
Yeah, it's dark right now, but I still see the light. Come on!
14-time Grammy winner Kirk Franklin releases his much-anticipated new album, Long Live Love. He sits down with Studio 5 just before the music drops. Do you have a prayer or wish for the new project?
Yo, man, that is a brilliant question. Yes. I have a prayer that I've written out.
Just for me.
Hope you'll join us for that story and so much more next week. As for the final word for this show, we return to Rose Simmons, who is featured in the Emanuel documentary. How has losing your father the way you did changed the trajectory of your life?
God has miraculously stepped in and has taken me from an ordinary existence to an extraordinary existence. And I believe that that was His plan all the time. It is such an honor just to be able to go around and meet people and talk with them about this grace gift of forgiveness and the love of Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much, Rose. That is a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.